So, you are planning to move to Australia, or you have just moved to Australia. Great! This quick guide will help you to understand local Australian customs and etiquettes that will help to make your experience smoother. Are you ready for it? Let's get into them. Now, the first one is regarding personal space and physical contact. Now, Australians value personal space, which means it's not a good idea to get too close to them or stand close to them when talking. Obviously, in some situations, it might be absolutely necessary to come closer, for example, in a peak hours in a public transport, but even then, there should not be any touching. Now, generally speaking, handshake is the most common form of greetings here, whether meeting males, females, or otherwise. Make sure to put your hand out for a firm handshake. Hugs and kisses are usually reserved only for close friends and family members. So again, don't get too close or into the personal space of someone. It's not usually acceptable. Number 2, language and slang. Now, the most common language spoken here in Australia is English, and they speak Aussie English here, which means Australians use a lot of local slangs when talking to each other and to other people as well. And they say some words that might be new to you, for example, good day mate, how's it going, and many other slangs you have to learn. So if you are new, chances are that you may not know all these slangs. If you're not comfortable in saying good day mate and things like that, it's perfectly okay to say hello or hi. And in Australia, when you're meeting someone, it's a good idea to call them by their first name rather than titles. So instead of saying Mr. or Miss, you can call them by their first name, like John or Matthew. And two words that you will hear quite often here is please and thank you. Whether at work, shopping, or other parts of your life, you will hear these words quite often, and I suggest that you use them quite often as well, as it is being just polite to others. Then the next one is tipping and paying for meals. Now, in Australia, usually you're not required to tip. Generally speaking, the wages here in Australia are quite good comparing to many other countries. And Australia is ranked usually in the top few countries when it comes to pay rates. But if you like the service and you want to appreciate the server or the team, then you can certainly tip. There's nothing wrong in doing so. And usually it is appreciated by the serving staff. If you're not tipping, you can just verbally thank the team as well. Again, it is just being polite. Another thing some of you might not be used to is splitting the bills. So when you're going out with a friend or someone you don't know much, you can ask for a split bill from the restaurant, which means they will split the bill accordingly. Many people feel shy when they first come here, but that's perfectly normal. The next one is public transport etiquette. Now, we can make a very dedicated video on this topic, but in this part, we'll just cover some basic and important ones. So the first one is when you're boarding any public transport, it is important that you let the existing passengers exit first. So don't try to board your public transport before letting the people exit first. And you should never push to get into public transport. And make sure you always stand in a queue or a line and don't jump the line as well. While in a public transport, it's important that you don't talk too loud, whether it's over the phone or with your friends. And if you see any elderly, disabled, or pregnant women, it's a good idea to give a seat. Obviously, there are dedicated spaces for these passengers, and if you are sitting in one of those places, then you must give a seat. But it's still a good idea to give them a seat even if you're not one of those sitting spaces. The next one on our list is regarding driving etiquette. So in Australia, we drive on the left side of the road. Most of you would already know about it. But it's important to note that if there are multiple lanes on the road, and if you're going to drive exact on the speed limit given or a little bit less, then it's important that you stay on the left lane of the road. So let's say the limit on the road is 60 kilometers and you're planning to drive around about that speed. So it's important that you stay on the left lane, not on the right one, because the right lane is usually for the fast moving vehicles. And this usually applies to when you are on the sidewalks or escalators or even bike paths. Now, this is an unspoken rule of the road here. If other driver has given you a way or they are just kind to you in some way or shape or form, then it's a good idea to raise your hand and wave at them. It's just a way of appreciating and thanking the driver. Now, the next one on our list is respecting environment. Australians love outdoor activities, whether it's going to a beach, doing hiking, and many other outdoor activities. Now, while enjoying these outdoor activities, Australians make sure that they keep their environment clean. And most Australians do look after it really well. So it's important that you dispose of your trash or rubbish responsibly. Don't just throw it anywhere you feel like. It's important to put them in the bins that are usually available. And if there are no bins around, it's important to pack it up and bring it along with you, and then you can throw it at your home or any bins available on the way. If you are using any public facilities or spaces, it's important to clean up after yourself. So for example, if you're going to use a public barbecue, after using it, it's your responsibility to clean it up as well. And it's important for you to also understand about the recycling. Usually you will see most of the places will have two bins, one for disposing of your general rubbish and the other one is for recyclable items. You need to know about which items goes into which bin, and it's not only in public spaces, at your home as well, you are usually allocated two bins as well. So it will be important for you to learn about which item goes into which bin. Now the next part is socializing and friendship. Aussies are usually known for their friendly and welcoming nature, and they usually like to have a casual conversation over a cup of coffee, could be at a local cafe, all while having barbecue. But just keep in mind that Australians are usually quite direct and straightforward, which may seem rude to some people, but they're usually not. They're just straightforward and to the point. And sometimes they could also use sarcasm or dry humor as well. Now, if you are socializing in a pub or a bar, it's common for people to buy drinks in rounds. So if you are at a bar with your friends and they're giving a shout for drinks, well, you have to be prepared to buy them around as well. The next etiquette is regarding dress code. Now, depending upon the occasion, your dress code will be different. But generally speaking, Australian culture, as I mentioned earlier, is quite casual. So there are not very strict dress codes for many events that you will attend here. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, if you're going for some formal interview of work, you might be required to wear a formal dress. A tie may or may not be needed, but a formal dress is usually expected in these settings. Although some workplaces here in Australia also allow you to wear smart casual or casuals as well. Again, depending upon the workplace, the rules could be different. But if you're meeting someone casually, then it's a good idea to wear either casual or smart casual dress. You don't need to be too formal when going out to meet your friends. The next one is elevator etiquette. As I mentioned in the public transport section, you are required to wait until the people exit the elevator first. Only then you can jump on elevator after people have already exited. And if you see someone running toward escalator trying to catch it, then it's important that you hold the elevator doors. And if the elevator is crowded and you are the closest person to the buttons, then it is polite for you to ask other people which floor they are heading to. And if elevator is getting too close to full or almost full, then you have to wait for the next one. It's not really a good idea to squeeze into elevator which is almost full. And last but not the least is regarding attending parties or events. Now, if you are invited to a party or an event, it's important that you RSVP the host, letting them know whether you are coming or not. The host usually expects a response from the people they're inviting, so make sure to RSVP them. And be punctual for the events, don't be too late. I know in some cultures and in some countries, you can rock up late to the parties, but here in Australia, the hosts expect you to come at the time they invite you. And when invited to someone's house, it's important that you bring some sort of a small gift. It could be a box of chocolate, a bottle of wine, or flowers. And it's common for people here in Australia to open gifts in front of the giver. And if you are at someone's house, it's a good idea to offer them help in serving, tidying up, or cleaning up during or after the event. So these were some of the most common etiquette you need to know if you are coming to Australia or you're already here. I know there are many more etiquettes, so if you would like us to make a video on a dedicated etiquette or topic, please let us know in the comment section below. And if you have experienced some of these etiquette or you have other ideas for people who are watching this video, please put them in the comment section below as well. I would love to hear from you all. Now, if you are an international student, we have got a great news that we have just launched our 2025 Overseas Student Guide. It's more than 200 pages long guide, but it's made in an infographic and very illustrative way to make it easier for you to learn about studying, working and living in Australia. As always, it's free to download. You can check the link in the description box below to download that guide. We look forward to your feedback for that guide as well. Now, if you are an international student, you might come across some hard realities in your life here in Australia. We have covered 5 of them in our previous week's video. So if you want to know more about hard realities you might come across here in Australia, I suggest you watch the video there. So click the video and I'll see you there.